for the purposes of conversion. The point is, what are the lessons therein for parents out there who may be worried about their children who are 24/7 stuck on video game consoles? And will the full truth of who all were involved in this pan-India racket come out at all?
गाजियाबाद के 2 पुलिस कांस्टेबल और हमारी मुंगा पुलिस की टीम थी, उन्होंने जाके अलीबाग से आरोपी को अरेस्ट किया है।
खोखली दलील देते हुए वे कह रहे हैं कि गेमिंग ऐप से कोई धर्मांतरण नहीं होता। चुनावी राजनीति के लिए वे तुष्टीकरण की राजनीति को आगे बढ़ा रहे हैं।
So how exactly does this gaming app and forcible conversion through these gaming apps work? Let's take you through the steps taken by these radicals to try and indoctrinate children using these gaming apps. Number one, they target teenagers via a particular online game. It's a very popular one. It's called Fortnite, whereby the users come together. You are formed into teams of either 2 or 4. Step 2 is they get these users to recite verses from the Quran. This is incorporated as part of the game sometimes, and sometimes it's also incorporated as some kind of a reward. In order to win the game, you need to recite verses from the Quran. Once they identify potential victims, and they're always looking out for signs in these children, whether they have a good relationship with their parents, do their parents interact with them continuously. Anyone who is seen as vulnerable is indoctrinated continuously through the Discord chat app. Now, this entire racket, it came to light in Ghaziabad, in the National Capital Region. Reports suggest it extends across the country as well as internationally. Here are some of the details accessed by CNN News 18 as per top sources from the Uttar Pradesh police. There are chats, multiple chats between the accused, the main accused who's been picked up from Alibag in Maharashtra, as well as various victims. The WhatsApp and Discord chats reveal the strategy of indoctrination adopted by Shahnawaz and others who were running this racket. The accused allegedly guided victims to a nearby mosque to offer namaz. The victims, who are young teens, are then threatened if they do not offer namaz 5 times a day. The chats also allegedly show that these victims were pressurized even on days that they have examinations. The alleged code word that was used for namaz was gym time. So in one of the first FIRs filed in this case, the parent of one of the victims alleged that his son was going to the gym 5 times a day, and that's how he grew suspicious. The chat engine was allegedly bombarded with Zakir Naik's teachings. Remember, the controversial Islamic preacher who is barred from entering India. Zakir Naik's video links were allegedly shared during these gaming chats as well. Links of verses from the Quran were also allegedly shared through the Discord app. So the main accused, as per the police, is a man named Shahnawaz. He's all of 23 years old. He was nabbed from Alibag in Maharashtra. The accused managed to buy a new SIM card. Remember, since this case came to light, which was in late May, this man and his close associate have been on the run. The Thane police managed to track this SIM card and track the location of this SIM card to a lodge in Alibag. 2 teams were formed. There were 5 cops each who were assigned the task to nab Shahnawaz. Lodges and cottages in the Alibag area. And remember, it's a very popular tourist destination as well. All the lodges and cottages there were searched. The police managed to nab Shahnawaz and his brother from one of those lodges in Alibag. The accused and his brother were using a different identity since this case came to light in late May. The police also detained the provider of the SIM card. And now CNN News 18 has accessed more details of this investigation. The Ghaziabad police say they have received 5 complaints in all against the accused from different parts of India, including Ludhiana, Faridabad, and of course one from Malad in Maharashtra. The UP cyber cell of the police there, the forensic unit has started the investigation into the finances behind this racket. At least 7 bank accounts are under the scanner. Anshul has more details on this. So Anshul, so money was also exchanged, because clearly if bank accounts are under the scanner, it was not just the inducement or forcible conversion to Islam, but also there was inducement through money.
So yes, as of now, there is one transaction that has happened between Shahnawaz and the kid who got converted. In fact, the complaint in that transaction was regarding a computer hardware part that he had outsourced from him in early January this year, is what we have been told. However, there are 7 bank accounts that have been found that have been linked to Shahnawaz and his close aides, where money, foreign money could be seen, the transactions of foreign money could be seen, and that is why the police suspect that this could be a larger nexus. At this point, the Ghaziabad police feels that they have won half the battle since they have gotten hold of the main accused Shahnawaz in the case. But yes, this is just the half the battle won, because there is a larger nexus that is operating, and that is something that is proving true by every passing minute as the investigation is going on. Till date, 5 children have been identified who were converted in this using the same modus operandi, whereas the police is looking out for other children who might have fallen trapped to this nexus that has come to the fore. But yes, at this point in time, there are 5 kids, and Shahnawaz the Ghaziabad police has managed to seek transfer remand of Shahnawaz, and he's been brought back to Ghaziabad. But what sources are telling us that he will be kept in a dislocation location, because there is a massive security threat that is threatening, and hence the Ghaziabad police is making sure that...
And very quickly, Anshul, I also want to know, what is the police telling you in terms of, are there other potential members of this gang? As of now, Shahnawaz and his brother have been arrested from Maharashtra, but are there others also who are part of this gang, who they're on the lookout for?
So yes, others, if you see, this is a conspiracy that transpires across borders, is what we are being told. There is a YouTube channel that operates from Pakistan. The videos from that YouTube channel were also shown to these kids. Also, Shahnawaz has some sort of his heads who are sitting out there in Dubai is also what the police expect. So once the interrogation of Shahnawaz starts from tomorrow, we'll get to know the exact details, if at all, how many people were involved in this larger nexus that has been unearthed. Because remember, this is first of its kind of modus operandi that has been exposed by the Ghaziabad police, and hence they are seeing this as a big success at this point in time. But yes, the manner in which the investigation is going on, it is very, very probable that there are more people and more international players who are also involved in this entire
next. Anshul, we'll leave it at that. We'll see how the story plays out, both in Ghaziabad as well as in Mumbai. Let me now go across to our full panel that's joining us. Anila Singh is spokesperson of the BJP, Tausif Ahmed Khan is advocate and political analyst. Dr. Vikram Singh is former DGP of Uttar Pradesh. Khaliqur Rahman, political analyst from the BRS, is also joining us. Anila Singh, so this case apparently came to light on the 30th of May. The first FIR was filed. This was in the Kavinagar police station in Ghaziabad. The father of one of the victims, who happens to be a minor, went to the police and complained that his son was being lured into accepting Islam while he was playing an online game. And apparently it came to light because his son was saying that he was going to the gym 5 times every day. And then this father on one day grew suspicious, followed his son. Turns out his son was going to the Sector 23 Jama Masjid and not to the gym. What would you say to parents who are watching this? Obviously, a lot of parents who are watching this have kids who are playing video games, and it's a different world out there. You don't know, what these video games are, who your kids are talking to. What would you say to them in light of this case that has come to light?
My Ram to everyone. And Zaka, you're absolutely correct. As a parent, even I can appreciate that it is very difficult to keep track that in this blind world of web ki dunya, it is so difficult to track that what children are doing. Though parents, they try to do their best, that what they are doing, they try to keep the track, but still it is very difficult. I will say, at least parents should keep on checking the history, what their kids are doing on the net, on the web. It is very, very, at times, if you talk about the teenagers, it becomes very difficult. They take it as a challenge. They think that parents are trying to intrude in their privacy, but it is for their own good. I think parents, they have to keep a check on their kids. And at the same time, if any clue comes out, I think they should not keep it to themselves. It should be immediately reported to the police, cyber police, and on the internet as well.
Okay.
So this is what I want to say, because it is not about, and it is not the matter of any of the political party or any of the sarkar.
Yeah.
It is a social ailment, I can say. And if I talk about the religion conversion mission which was going on, that is obnoxious. These people were targeting young brains. They were trying to brainwash them, lure them. This is very incorrect. This is a malice. That is absolutely incorrect. So we have to keep check on such.
Let me just give some details. I want to get Tausif Ahmed Khan also. Now, what the UP police are claiming, and they've mentioned this in their submissions in court today as well, in the transit remand application that they moved. The alleged conversion racket started during the COVID lockdowns in 2020 when schools were shut. Teenagers were exposed to online classes. There were minors reportedly from Faridabad, Ludhiana, Maharashtra and Ghaziabad who virtually met this man, Shahnawaz, at a gaming platform called Fortnite. On these platforms, you can chat with fellow gamers, you have to team up with fellow gamers, and you have to win these games. The first alleged conversion, Tausif, came to light of a Jain boy from Ghaziabad. Now, the police say that after this game, the minors would chat not just on Fortnite, but also the other messaging application called Discord. And it would start initially with innocent conversations about the game and strategies for the game, so on and so forth. And eventually, after a degree of familiarity was established, these children were then brainwashed into talk about Islam and accepting Allah and so on and so forth. Doesn't this worry you, the sinister nature of this, simply because, most kids in their teens are on video games, one or the other, and most parents don't know what these video games are and who is there on these video games, and the fact that you can actually team up and chat with fellow video gamers, you have no idea what the antecedents of these fellow video gamers are.
You're absolutely right. As a parent, I would be concerned if kids start spending time on social media or on internet online gaming. I should be concerned, rightly. And like any other parent in the world should be concerned, because it's a dark world out there, as Anila Singh was saying. Addiction of any kind, whether it is an addiction of with the game, online gaming, or addiction with smoking or with anything else, should be checked by the parents at home. And so far the claim, the case or the allegation of the police is concerned, we all know that police have in the past come up with cases which turned out to be not so authentic, which turned out to be involving some innocent people. So that is part of the investigation that has to be seen after the court takes it into cognizance, after the witnesses are cross-examined. The law itself, the scheme of the law, says that the police cannot be trusted for recording the statement correctly, as they may be self-serving in nature. If it is concerned, if police is concerned about the statements that they may have recorded from the people who they have arrested, that cannot be relied upon, at least at this stage. Let the investigation continue. Yes. And on the other hand, I am absolutely with everyone, like any parent should be, to be very cautious, to be very watchful, and to keep their kids under constant watch about what they are doing online. There could be, financial scam going on. There could be lots of fraudster. You don't know what kind of world is there out in the web world. So, just like it's just you have to be cautious.
So let me then ask Vikram Singh. What the Ghaziabad police are saying allegedly is that this main accused, this man Shahnawaz alias Baddo, the claim by the Ghaziabad police is that over the last 3 years since the COVID-induced lockdown, Baddo and his friends have converted at least 300 to 400 children across the country, particularly those who are spending a disproportionate amount of time on their mobile phones, on video games. They would lure them, first, of course, with innocent chatter about what was going on in the game, strategies about the game, so on and so forth. But eventually, it would move into religious conversations. The point is, Could two people sitting out of a house in Mumbai have done this, supposedly by the Ghaziabad police, that 300 to 400 children over a 3-year period were allegedly converted?
Zaka, what you are witnessing is just the tip of the iceberg. The case is fresh, and the insidious and the nefarious activities of Shahnawaz alias Baddo is being monitored no other than Ajay Mishra, Police Commissioner of Ghaziabad. I, for one, would not like to question the credibility or the integrity of the Ghaziabad Police's investigation, but it is a scary situation, and it is within the realm of distinct possibility that it is very much possible. And also, you will recall that Shahnawaz, in a perfect roadmap, indoctrinating children, picking out those who are trusting, those who are vulnerable, and feeding them on the nonsense of Zakir Naik, who speaks like God, and also other inflammatory material, and then trying to convert them. This is one part. Then getting money from Dubai and Pakistan. Do you think for a moment that it is possible for a lone wolf to do that? Certainly not.
Yeah.
There is a close, coordinated gang action, and it is a case where extra national and those outside India are also planning India 2047 like the PFI. Do you not see the similarity between the PFI roadmap and the roadmap of Shahnawaz and the like? Obviously there is. And to get conversions of this manner, they have handlers sitting in Pakistan and Dubai who are guiding the lives of the unemployed.
But Vikram Singh Saab, before I go to Khaliqur Rahman, how easy or difficult would this be to prove in a court of law? These are so far, allegations made by the Ghaziabad police. They've managed to get a transit remand to the main accused. Of course, cross-questioning will happen, his interrogation will happen. Basis that they will build a case. But this is going to be technologically arduous for them to be able to scan back and retrieve chats from 3 years ago. And that too, these are not WhatsApp chats. These are chats on a gaming platform.
You are so right, but you've answered your question yourself, Mr. Zaka, that IT-enabled and IT crimes are so easy to uncover and prove in a court of law. There is documentation, there's encryption, there's a financial trail, there's also a corroborative evidence that is face-to-face of the victims and also of Shahnawaz. Let us not live in illusion. Shahnawaz would be subjected to the lie detector test and the polygraph test. And also the other incorporated and other evidence will also be incorporated in the investigation. Therefore, it is one of the easier investigations to prove in a court of law, much as I would like to lay a bet also that this case is going to end in conviction because it has already incontrovertible evidence.
So let me go to Khaliqur Rahman. I just want to bring our viewers also up to speed with the entire modus operandi of how this racket worked. This is according to the Ghaziabad police. They are saying that once a miscreant has created a profile on this popular gaming app called Fortnite, they identify their targets based on behavior. That is, people who tend to spend a lot of time on these gaming apps, people who are very open to sending random messages to strangers and also open to receiving messages from random strangers. And most importantly, they are also evaluated as to what kind of relationship they have with their parents, whether they're close to their parents, whether they spend adequate time with their parents, or their parents have let them off with a long rope. This is how the targets are chosen, and invariably, in this case, the targets that have been chosen are impressionable young adults. Doesn't it point to some kind of a sinister multi-state gang, Khaliqur Rahman, that preys on these innocent victims, profiles them, looks at the ideal profile of this impressionable mind, and then sort of targets him or her?
Yeah, good evening to you, Zaka, and good evening to all my co-panelists and all your viewers. First of all, let me tell you that it is a matter of great concern for all of us, because we are all parents and we all have the teenager children. So, and we are not, able to actually monitor how much time they are actually spending and on what app and what they are doing actually. And let me also tell you that I lost my son in a road accident in 2011. After that, I started a campaign called Youth Against Speed. That's a road safety campaign. And I work with, the youth across the country. And I know the mindset and the very purpose of reaching out to the youth is to tell them that number one, we talk on the deadly consequences of the speed and the drunken driving. And apart from that, I also, make use of that platform to also reach out to the youth and also to their parents to tell them that you be with your children as a friend and don't have these distances, especially at least have one meal, at least your dinner with your children. So that what happens is, because the gap or the distance or the communication gap which is developing, because what happened now, the parents have also become so busy these days, so they are not able to spend quality time with the children. So that's the reason, because if we go back to our days, we have spent a lot of time in the joint families. Today it's a nuclear family trend now. So because of that, it is really because mom is working, dad is working, and what happens is, most of the time, in order to please the children, since we are not able to give them the time, we give them all sort of comforts, and also we don't.
But Mr. Rahman, what should a 13, 14, 15-year-old do who may or may not be addicted to these video games but spends a lot of time playing these video games, and then there are fellow video gamers who are luring him or her, talking about religion, talking about Islam, talking about how Allah's is the only way and so on. What can a teenager with an impressionable mind do to counter this? If not to counter, at least to recognize that this is what is going on.
Let me tell you, because these teenagers are 13 years, 14 years, 15 years, they have the very vulnerable minds, and it is very easy to lure them, especially. And the kind of this sinister plan which has been, in fact, discovered by the police about a week, 10 days back, it very clearly shows there is, something really happening. And I'm not too sure about the figure that 300 or 400 conversions, but it is up to the police to actually do the thorough investigation into this matter, and we have to actually reach to the deep-rooted cause of this.
Okay, on that last point, I agree that yes, that the police will need to prove this in a court of law, and it's not going to be easy to do that. But let me ask Anila Singh, the larger problem, Anila Singh, is that these one second, sir, I'll come back to you. I have time. Religious conversion using these online games like Fortnite and then the Discord chat app, it's basically similar to what happens on your online dating apps. Normally, you allow all users to sign in either with a Facebook profile or a Google profile. And this automatically, you don't have to show any verified credentials. You don't have to show any government ID proof, or you don't have to show your age proof. You can actually fake or create fake profiles on Facebook and Google. And using those profiles, you are then allowed access into these gaming apps. Is it time now for government to seriously consider that, particularly, violent games like PUBG and in this case Fortnite, which was used, that the real identity of these people in some form should be made available?
I think that is a very great input, and some steps has to be taken by the government, because this is getting very scary. Like we have seen, there was a game, Blue Whale or some, I don't remember the name.
Blue Whale.
Blue Whale. We saw so many kids, finishing their lives. Today we are seeing that how these people, they are luring young mind to get their religion converted. So this is very, very scary. We keep on seeing such things happen. And yes, you are absolutely correct. Certain steps should be taken. I mean, though it is so difficult to check the web world, dark web world, but still, I think government is already very proactive. In 1 year's time, we know it very well that many online platform or many IDs had been, blocked, but more has to be done. And I was listening to Mr. Raman, and I was listening to Mr. Khan, who is TMC supporter as well. They have talked so productive manner, so positive. But at the same time, when we hear Samajwadi Party, they say, "Arey, bachcha hai, ladka hai, galti ho gayi. Uska intention aisa nahi hoga." Then, it is alarming. Appeasement should not come in such things. Appeasement should be, should be kept for other things. But when young children, when they are getting involved, when in such a strategic manner, these people are taking their mission ahead. People like such heinous people like Zakir Naik and all, they are involved. I think at that time we should avoid politics. But what to do? There are political parties who want to do the appeasement politics, so they are standing with the Shahnawaz as well.
So Tausif, again, I come back to that point. We don't have any laws or system in place in India where for video games, if you need to create a profile, you need to provide some kind of a government issued ID. This is as much true for video game profiles as it is for any social media platform account. Now, the point is that this could be a minefield for adults who claim to be, teenagers and who use platforms like these video games to befriend other teenagers. And you could have this completely lopsided field where you have sinister adults who are part of a crime syndicate, not just for, in this instance, but for any, it could be financial fraud, it could be for any ulterior motive, freely engaging with kids under 18, with them pretending to be teenagers just like them. So there is no way you can verify these profiles. There is no way you can know that you're actually talking to a teenager, or are you being duped by somebody who's in his 40s or 50s?
Yeah, you are right. In a social world, there are limitations when online gamings are concerned, or even if social media websites are concerned. There are limitations about how you can verify before the person can create his or her profile. So while there is a task upon the government to ensure public safety when they are using internet platform, there is also an onus on the parents to coach their children, to make them aware of the ill world, that the evil world that the internet can become. So the responsibility is twofold. While government must take all the initiative that it can, I mean, it's nothing new. Not that because the religion angle comes and BJP must come into action. It is not so. There has been people have lost their life through these internet online gaming challenge and all that. People have lost money, their hard-earned money, to the scamsters available online. So all those also account for government to take stern action, to take whatever they could to protect the citizens in this internet space. And also there is a huge responsibility, I feel, on the parents to coach their children at home how to engage in the internet world, and what flags to look on for, and what safety measures they can do to ensure that no harm is done to them.
Okay, so I want to ask Vikram Singh also that this entire case came to light on the 30th of May when the first FIR was filed. It's been over 10 days now, and the main accused, the mastermind as the Ghaziabad police are putting it, this man Shahnawaz Khan, alias Baddo, that was his digital name, that was his video game name. He is alleged to have, along with his friends, converted 300 to 400 children to Islam over a 3-year period. Now, my question is, how do we know that this is the pyramid of this scam, that this man was the person who was responsible for this massive racket that was operating? Yes, he was in Mumbai and they managed to arrest this man in a space of 10 days. It must be asked how he was able to evade the authorities for the last 10 days. But surely the kingpin, the mastermind, could be somebody sitting in Pakistan or somebody sitting in Dubai. The Ghaziabad police can go easily to Mumbai or to Alibag and arrest Baddo. But what about if a mastermind would be sitting in Pakistan or in Dubai?
Very appropriate point picked up by you, Zaka. But yes, it may not be so easy to pick up the king and the person who has the remote in Pakistan or Dubai. But yes, the red corner notice is very much possible through the Interpol. But if you are able to nab the foot soldiers like Shahnawaz alias Baddo, I think you have done a commendable job. Shahnawaz alias Baddo is not new to crime, because using SIM cards that were doctored and they were charged even before the necessary verification goes to show that Shahnawaz alias Baddo was ably tutored by his handlers from Pakistan and Dubai. And yes, he had a free run for at least 24 months, and those encrypted communication would reveal the entire nexus and the network of foot soldiers within India, their supply chain, and also the funding, etc. And I think that would be a very sizable recovery. Of what use is a remote if the television is not there? Therefore, to annihilate and to dismantle the sleeper cells and dismantle the foot soldiers, I think that is a task that Ajay Mishra, Police Commissioner Ghaziabad, should do, and also the IT cell of UP Police.
I'll give the final word to Khaliqur Rahman. We're given to understand, and this is again as for the remand application that was filed by the UP Police, that once, you know, these miscreants get these kids, these children in their lure, then the conversation steers to far more important topics or far more weighty issues. There are conversations about the Israel-Palestine conflict. There are conversations about alleged atrocities by the armed forces in places like Kashmir. They speak of the values of one religion over another. Again, it comes back to, you know, if the whole purpose of this thing was conversion, forcible conversion, what has that got to do with Israel-Palestine conflict or what's happening in Kashmir or anything else that political Islam comes to symbolize? I mean, if you want to change your faith, you change your faith. I'm not saying, you know, forcibly getting 15 or 16-year-olds to forcibly change their faith is the way to go. But assuming there are adults there who want to change their faith, what has it got to do with Israel-Palestine conflict or Kashmir?
Zaka, see, in this case, because these miscreants were targeting the young minds, the teenagers actually. And I don't think anyone, any adult, would have become a victim of these people. And as you very rightly said, and as Vikram Singh ji very rightly said, because this Shahnawaz's face could just be a front guy actually. And I don't think this guy has the capability or the capacity to run this plan. There must be, you know, the intellectual brains behind him. Even looking at his face, I don't think this guy, you know, has even the, you know, technical knowledge to do all this or execute the plan. So I think our police and our intelligence and IB has to really go after to find out, because this is something which is more alarming than any other thing. Because every youngster, every youth has got a smartphone, and we really don't know, and it is really difficult to keep a tab on them. So it is very, very pertinent and important that the police should not be complicit or negligent in any way. And since our former DGP Saab is here, I'm sure whatever he said, I fully endorse his words. I agree with him.
Okay.
And, yes.
Khaliqur Rahman, Tausif, Anila Singh and Vikram Singh, thanks very much for joining us. We'll be on top of the story, but we're getting a piece of breaking news and I need to go to that right now. Boris Johnson, the former UK Prime Minister, has now formally resigned as a member of the Conservative Party. Remember, this is over the Partygate scandal, the investigation which found that he had deliberately misled Parliament as well as members of his own cabinet. Now he has formally resigned as Member of Parliament, which means that there has to be a by-election that takes place in his constituency. And I believe there are two other constituencies as well where by-elections need to take place. So Sanjay Suri is now joining us with more on this. So even as he leaves, demits public office, as it were, as a Member of Parliament, he's also presented the Rishi Sunak government with a bit of a headache because there need to be by-elections to not just Boris's constituency, but I believe there are a couple of more constituencies where there need to be by-polls soon.
Well, the headache is not just by way of the by-elections. In his resignation speech, he has taken a very serious pot shot at Rishi Sunak, and he says that Rishi Sunak was in the same building as him, and we of course know that Rishi Sunak too was fined by the police. And of course, Boris Johnson is implying that if he must be found at fault by the MPs over Partygate, so similarly must Rishi Sunak. And he is not left without saying that he is leaving only, at least for now, clearly suggesting that he plans to come back. And we know that elections are due next year. So there is an indication that he will be back, but he's leaving now because, well, he jumped before he could be pushed. The Partygate MPs committee is believed to have found against him, and it is due to rule finally and formally on Wednesday in anticipation of their decision. And if that decision has to be that he suspended for more than 10 days, then he would have to contest again anyway. So he's left before that.
All right, we'll leave it at that. We'll see how the story plays out, both for Boris Johnson and the incumbent Rishi Sunak government. Like I said, it's not just the bipole, this Sanjay was saying, also what he said while he stepped down as MP, which is of concern to Rishi Sunak and his political lieutenants. Meanwhile, let's shift focus now to debate number 2 as the Congress party pushes through its welfare guarantees in Karnataka. After that stellar victory, it's now facing flack over some of the conditions surrounding some of these guarantees for the common man to avail them. While the BJP is hit out at the Congress for not highlighting these conditions, T&C apply, as they say. Now voices from within the party are also questioning. Senior Congress leader Shiv Shankarappa has questioned the free bus service scheme as the Siddaramaiah government has now made an identity card mandatory for women to avail this free bus service. While criticizing this condition, he also said that women from other states should be allowed to get the benefit of this Shakti scheme. The BJP has once again attacked the Congress and it's standing divided over the rollout of guarantees. But the big question remains, is the Congress guilty of misleading the public in the run-up to the election? Or are they realizing the cost of fulfilling this is far too much? That's why some of these riders have been inserted.
ಸರ್ಕಾರ ಹೆಚ್ಚು ಕಂಡೀಷನ್ಗಳು ಮಾಡೋದು ಸರಿಯಲ್ಲ ಅಂತಕ್ಕಂಥ ನನ್ನ ಅಭಿಪ್ರಾಯ. ನಾನು ಇದನ್ನ ಅಸೆಂಬ್ಲಿಯಲ್ಲಿ ಕೂಡ ಪ್ರಸ್ತಾಪ ಮಾಡ್ತೇನೆ.
We have been saying that Karnataka Congress is split into 3 parties. This kind of guarantees are only temporary.
We are confident that the people will respect us. They have respected the verdict.
ये गरीब लोगों को अच्छा है क्योंकि गरीब लोग अचानक पैसा नहीं रहा तो फ्री कहाँ भी जा सकते हैं.
अब जरा आराम से होता है, 50 रुपए बचता है मेरे.
All right, let me now go across to our guests who are joining us. Dr. Narendra Rangappa is spokesperson of the BJP, Sanket Yanagi, spokesperson of the KPCC, Prakash Belwadi, who will also be joining us, political analyst and former journalist. Sanket, let me start with you first. You know, every one of these 5 guarantees which you had promised to the people of Karnataka in the run-up to the elections, you have now imposed TNC, which is terms and conditions apply. Whether it is for women, there has to be separate identity cards, you have to create some kind of a bus pass. For free electricity, it is only up to 200 units, and then there is this average 10% more than the average of the last 3 years, so on and so forth. So for every one of these guarantees, why are you now, after coming into power, applying these terms and conditions? You should have said this while you were making those promises as well.
The intention of the terms and conditions is to see that the scheme or the policy of the government should reach the eligible, and it should not be misused by anyone, number 1. And number 2, we should also have the accountability of the person or the passenger or the one who want to use the scheme. So for which reason it is necessary always to have the accountability, the assessment of the performance, and also to see that the misuse should not take place. That is our duty, for which reason the terms and conditions have been imposed.
But sir, please tell me, please tell me, one second, Sanket, please tell me, you went ahead and said free bus ride to all women, right? Now a woman enters a bus, how can it be misused? What do you mean by misuse? Either the woman is getting free bus ride or no, because men are not getting free bus ride. So how can it be misused? Are you saying that men will start coming in disguise as women on buses?
No.
What is the scope of misuse?
The scheme is provided for the people or the women of Karnataka. Those who are not the residents of Karnataka, who are not the persons who are settled in Karnataka, will not be able to use this scheme. So there are chances of the people or the women from other states using this scheme in the guise of being women. So that should not be allowed, or that should not be again causing any loss to the exchequer in the guise of welfare scheme
again,
to the state.
I'm not sure how this will work on the ground. If there's a migrant labor who's been working in Bangalore for like 5 years or 10 years, is that person an outsider or an insider? I mean, how are you going to make these distinctions? You said all women will get a free bus ride. Now, either you implement that promise or you don't. Anyway, let me ask Dr. Rangappa, you know, not just the bus ride, when it comes to electricity, first it was said 200 units, everyone will get 200 units free. Now then they said even if you use 1 unit more than 200, then you have to pay for the whole 200. And also now this condition that you will only get 10% more than the average of the last 3 years.
So these schemes or freebies, what I would like to call they have given, is reckless, indiscriminate, irresponsible, and without any accountability. When they were making their manifesto and when they were planning the guarantees, Mr. Siddaramaiah, who has presented 13 budgets, did he not have any idea then what he has to give as terms and conditions? Did he not know that this can be misutilized? Did he not know that it can be misused? This is total farce. This is cheating, hoodwinking, and taking the people of Karnataka for a ride. And they have been exposed very badly.
But why were you not able to convince the people of Karnataka during the campaign? Congress got 135 seats.
We were convincing them. And now they will be better convinced. And in the forthcoming elections, just look at the plight of what Congress will face. The ire of people, the people who have suffered, and the people who are getting double their electricity bill, and trying to digest these lies of freebies with the terms and conditions, 2,000 rupees for a lady of the house, and then they come and say, if you are paying income tax, or if your husband is paying income tax, or if your brother is paying income tax, we'll not give you money. And we are giving 3,000 rupees to the unemployed. Did you mention that people who are passed between 23 and 22 will get 3,000 rupees? Have you said whoever is unemployed will give them money?
So let me then ask Prakash Belawadi. No, one second. There is an old saying. One second, sir. One second. I'm Prakash Belawadi. There's an old saying: good economics makes for bad politics, and bad economics makes for good politics. This may be a case of bad economics, but at the end of the day, people have voted. Now you can say that the people of Karnataka were gullible. They bought into the promises by the Congress, or the Congress was smart to make these promises in the first place because they were recognizing that people were suffering, and therefore people bought into these promises. Fact is that this is how elections are contested and won. That people weigh the options in front of them. They look at who they think could be better for them, who could actually improve their plight. And when you have a party which says we'll give you free power and free bus rides and stipend to women and to unemployed, that seems like an attractive proposition.
Zaka, I'm not very sure that it's bad economics either, and I'm not sure at all that it was such good politics. Really, because, if you have to make some analysis and say how many more extra votes the Congress got because of these, what everybody is calling freebies were announced. And I can't put a very good number on it. But see, I think if you look at how the numbers came, it came from so many different, for so many different reasons, Lingaites and Dalits and, disgruntled Bakkaligas and so on. It may be 1 or 2% more they got. I mean, if the swing is the great politics, so be it. So I'll not dwell on that too much, but let me go to the point that it's not such bad economics. Because if you see how much the government spends on truly expensive, road projects, road widening projects, or building the planned peripheral road in Bangalore, which is now estimated at 21,000 crores, but 2/3 of that will just be land acquisition, some 8-lane or 14-lane or whatever road that will be. And I'm sure that cost will go up because when it was first planned, it was just 3,000 crores, they estimate. Now 21,000 crores. When it's finished, maybe it'll be 50,000 crores. And I'm saying you're using taxpayers' money to do that. If there are buses ferrying people to work and the government subsidizes public transport as it should. By the way, BMTC was the only profit-making, local bus service, public transport service in India till about a decade or 15 years ago. And then things have changed a little bit from then on. The ridership has decreased also. But, you're building those roads, spending these enormous monies, because you have to accommodate the 2.5 million cars and about 8 million two-wheelers that are being used in Bangalore. So in fact, you're using taxpayers' money to subsidize road building for rich people, or people who are better off than very poor people who have to use a bus. So I don't think it's such bad economics, because maybe if you can get people to make a modal shift from using private vehicles and move in these buses, then you don't have to spend such big monies on road building and cut down thousands and thousands of trees. The peripheral ring road will take away some 35,000 trees, I believe. So I'm saying there are lots in the environmental costs and so on. So it may not be bad economics. The question is it very good intention? If you'll just allow me 2 minutes, I'll finish this. The first is, I think it's not so bad to give subsidized public transport. Maybe it should not be free. Maybe they could have made it 10 rupees, 5 rupees, and so on. Maybe the highest ticket should not have been more than 30 rupees inside the city, maybe. But that would have been welcomed by the poor. It need not have been free. The free thing is a little bit vulgar, I think, because people who don't need to use the bus also may use the bus then. See, the second thing is that the 200 units of electricity also, maybe some basic stuff you should provide. I don't think even that I'm going to crib about whether it's you have to pay the whole. If you can actually use more than 200 units, maybe you should pay for it. The thing that bothers me is that 2,000 rupees per month kind of thing. I know that people can get upset that I'm saying this, but very poor people, thousands of people, I'm saying thousands of schools have been shut down. Government-run schools have been shut down because they can't get enough students. And very poor people pay enormous amounts to send their children to, maids and, security lift operators. These people are sending the children to expensive private schools because the government cannot provide very good education, primary education. The second thing is people spend lots of money to go to private doctors, private medical services, because, the government primary health care centers are not trusted as much as they should have been. So maybe this money should have been used for delivering better services. Somebody said very cynically, 2,000 rupees, some money will come back to a lot of money actually, they said, will come back to the government because people will drink that and, maybe women will not allow that, but it may lead to trouble at home and so on. I'm very, that is why I'm worried about the intent of government, because if it was a rational plan, will they stop all those crazy road building projects that they've got in their heads?
Okay, so Sanket Janaki, respond to that. If you can subsidize road building for rich people to use cars and private vehicles, Prakash Belawadi says it's okay to subsidize free travel. Maybe not free, but there should have been a token amount. But I think the larger point he also made is most states, and you take the example of not just here in India, but across the world, the two services that citizens demand the most from most states is A, education, and B, health. And in that regard, there is no promise in these 5 guarantees.
That services are already being guaranteed, though it is not a part of this guarantee. That is a fundamental duty, in fact. That is a duty of the government under Chapter 2 or 3 of the Constitution. When this is a fundamental duty of the government, right to free education, as right to health is a fundamental duty, and it's a fundamental right of the citizen as well. We have already guaranteed. And nothing more required to be again guaranteed is by way of a separate guarantee here, and that we have already ensured and we have been following it. And insofar as other things are concerned,
sir, I just want to bring to your attention that the period after COVID, because there was no physical classes, 13,800 government schools were shut down across Karnataka. 13,800. I think that's the point that
Prakash
is making.
So let me answer that question as well. So our schemes are being implemented in a phased manner, first of all. And the second aspect is that first our concentration is on the underprivileged and those who have suffered, who should be given benefit on an immediate priority. Urgent and necessary, and those who can be dealt at the later stage. So this is how we have categorized the scheme for the implementation purpose.
Okay.
And one way we have to accumulate the wealth in order to see that the project is going on smoothly and it should reach the end person or the end user, and it should not be misused at one end. And the other end, we should also see that other the commitments which we have made under the 4 promises also to be implemented. It is not just the 5 guarantees.
I'm really sorry I'm interrupting, but I'm getting a piece of breaking news which I need to go to. I want to thank the guests in the meanwhile for this truncated debate. But this is a big story coming in from Bhopal. There's a massive fire that is underway right now in a place called the Satpura Bhavan. Madhya Pradesh Chief Minister Shivraj Singh Chauhan has spoken to Defence Minister Rajnath Singh. He's also sought the help of the Air Force to extinguish the fire. The Defence Minister, in fact, has directed an Air Force AN-32 aircraft and Mi-15 chopper to reach Bhopal by tonight. Manoj Sharma has more details on this and he's joining us on the phone line. We'll try and get to him in just one second, but these are images from this Satpura Bhavan, which is in Madhya Pradesh. This is in Bhopal, where there was a massive fire that broke out some time back. We're given to understand that the fire is still burning and that the Chief Minister has spoken to the Defence Minister, urging immediate help from the Defence Forces, from the Air Force to try and extinguish the fire. The Defence Minister has directed that 1 AN-32 heavy aircraft and 1 Mi-15 chopper reach Bhopal right away. Let me go across to Manoj, who has more details on this. Manoj, what exactly caused this fire and where is this happening? Is it still burning as the picture seemed to suggest?
Yeah, it's still burning. In fact, Madhya Pradesh government Chief Minister Shivraj Singh Chauhan, he has already ordered an inquiry, and ACS Home, Mr. Rajesh Rajora, is heading this inquiry along with Principal Secretary Neeraj Mandloi and PS2 in PW Department Sukhbir Singh. But what is, in fact, he has also spoken to Defence Minister, he has spoken to Amit Shah, the Home Minister, and inquiry has been ordered, but all these arrangements are being made by the state government to control the fire. In fact, this fire has been there for the last 5 or 6 hours, and this is important government building. Satpura Bhavan is important government building. It includes important government departments, including this medical department. This is the Directorate of Medical Education, Tribal Welfare Department. There are important files and important works which is being carried out in these offices. So all arrangements are being made by the state government to control this fire, and as far as we know, inquiry has been ordered, and all these special Air Force M-15, we have been told, AN-32 and Mi-15. These 2 choppers have reached Bhopal.
Okay, Manoj, we'll leave it at that. Thoughts and prayers. I believe this is a government building, therefore there was unlikely that there were any people there in that building at the time that this fire broke out, but the scale of it seems quite large. That a military aircraft and a military chopper are being pressed into service. We'll keep an eye out on that. Thanks very much for tuning in. We'll see you again tomorrow night. Same.
The system did not fail. There was either intentfully or without intent some sort of interference with the system.
I was given to understand that some maintenance work was indeed going on there.
The fact that it's been a month and a half since these protests started, we've had a second 6-hour-long meeting between the sports minister and the protesting wrestlers. Why should they believe and why should the people believe that by the 15th there will be some resolution?
Yet another fresh face-off, and multiple media reports point to not just fortifications but significant build-up on the other side of the line of actual control that is occupied by China. Bhutan airfield means a J-16 can now land within 400 kilometers of Leh and Srinagar. Is this on expected lines, or should we be really worried that the conflict is going to escalate, sir?
Some people came and they actually done something wrong in the temple area. I wanted Amit Shah's interference on this. On the other hand, Trinamool comes up with a video where they show that CISF Jawans who were with Shantanu Thakur, they with boot entered the temple.
As the political face-off continues over the Panchayat elections in West Bengal, the state's election commission will be submitting its report today over the requirement of central forces during the Panchayat polls. Now, the Calcutta High Court had issued a directive to see whether the calendar of polls can be reorganized or not, since opposition has claimed that less time has been given for filing nominations. Now, meanwhile, a war of words has erupted between the TMC and the BJP after ruckus took place outside of a temple in Bengal over TMC leader Abhishek Banerjee's visit. Major chaos had broken out between the supporters of the TMC leader Abhishek Banerjee and supporters of the Union Minister of State of Ports, Shipping and Waterways, Shantanu Thakur, and members of the Matua Mahasangh. Now, Banerjee had said that the central security personnel who guard Shantanu Thakur and his brother Subrata, a BJP MLA, had attacked and heckled women TMC workers.
चुनाव सही वक्त पर होना है। गांव का चुनाव, पंचायत चुनाव, गांव का सरकार है। ये विद इन जुलाई कराना कोई दिक्कत नहीं है, ये वेलकम है। चुनाव का तारीख ऐलान करने का कम से कम एक हफ्ता पहले ऑल पार्टी मीटिंग, वन स्टेट लेवल, वन डिस्ट्रिक्ट लेवल, वन ब्लॉक लेवल, एसडीओ लेवल भी हुआ है। फॉर्म नहीं था। इतना छुपा छुपा के पंचायत चुनाव का प्रोसेस जारी करने का इसका मकसद क्या है? बहुत खतरनाक कदम है विदाउट द कंसेंट ऑफ दिस फैमिली। अपने पावर की, स्टेट का जो पावर है उसके ऊपर उन्होंने घुसने का कोशिश किया है। ये तरीका अच्छा नहीं है। एज ए मेंबर ऑफ पार्लियामेंट उसको जाने का पहले ठाकुरबाड़ी का इजाज़त लेना चाहिए था और एक लेटर भी भेजना चाहिए था और ठाकुरबाड़ी का जो प्रैक्टिस है विदाउट फ्लैग जाना चाहिए था। हैट्स ऑफ टू द कम्युनिटी। ये लोग ने खुलकर विरोध किया। जो विरोध बंगाल का दूसरा प्रांत में करने के लिए माने एनवायरनमेंट भी नहीं है और क्षमता भी नहीं है।
देखिए, वो एक अनाउंस्ड प्रोग्राम था, वो जो नवजुवार चल रहा है अभिषेक का मेन प्रोग्राम था, पॉलिटिकल प्रोग्राम था हावड़ा में। लेकिन अभिषेक का जो नवजुआर है वो तो जनजुआर बन चुका है। तो इस जनजुआर में भयभीत होकर भाजपा ने आज किसी समर्थक, भाजपा कुछ लोग, वो लोग बहुत डिस्टर्ब किया। मंदिर, टेम्पल वो बंद करके रखा, स्लोगनिंग किया और सेंट्रल फोर्स वो जूता पहन के मंदिर में घुस के, वो जूता पहन के मंदिर में घुस के सेंट्रल फोर्स को यूज करके वो लोग अभिषेक को मंदिर में घुसने से वो रोकने की कोशिश की।
কেন্দ্রীয় বাহিনীর জওয়ান জুতো পরে ঠাকুরবাড়ির মন্দিরে প্রবেশ করেছে। আমি টুইট করেছি, ছবি আছে দেখবেন। তার জবাব আগামী দিন দেবেন কি দেবেন না? এরা ভাবছে আমরা যা ইচ্ছা তাই করব না। যখন চাইবো টাকা বন্ধ করে দেবো, যখন চাইবো কেন্দ্রীয় বাহিনীকে জুতো পরে মন্দিরের ভিতর ঢুকিয়ে দেবো। বাপের সম্পত্তি নাকি? পৈতৃক সম্পত্তি? শান্তনু ঠাকুর যদি ভেবে থাকে যে আমি অভিষেক বন্দ্যোপাধ্যায়কে আটকাবো আর অমিত শাহকে পা চেটে ঢোকাবো, আগামী দিন মানুষ জবাব দেবে। আমি মানুষের উপর ছেড়ে দিয়ে যাচ্ছি।
We're crossing over to CNN News 18's Kamalika Sen-Gupta to get us more details on this. Kamalika, can you tell us about who is for and against the demand for central forces during the Panchayat polls and what the reasoning is?
See, this is actually this total incident happened. Abhishek Banerjee is in Sanjog Yatra, Navjoar Yatra for the last 2 months. He is going to every district. Now, his yatra was going in North 24 Pargana, where this Thakurbari is. Now, what is Thakurbari? Thakurbari is this temple of Mathua community, and Mathua community is very strong in this area, bordering areas, and around 60 constituencies. They are very strong. They are the people who came from Bangladesh, the Hindu minority people who came from Bangladesh, who are absolutely the backward classes, and they worship this. They have this temple here. Now, this temple,
Hello, namaskar. This is First Post, and you're watching Vantage with me, Palki Sharma. It's Monday night here in India. There's a lot of news to cover. We are starting with West Asia, and it's witnessing a shift. It's something we've been saying for a while now. The United States is losing ground. China is expanding its footprint, and Riyadh is paving the way for it. Yesterday, the Saudi energy minister sent a clear message to Washington, D.C. He said Western concerns about China do not matter. This comes after America's top diplomat visited Riyadh to fix ties. We'll tell you why America and Saudi Arabia are drifting apart and why this has advantaged China. And the bad news for Washington does not end there. Pakistan has bought its first consignment of Russian oil. More political drama in the UK. Former Scottish First Minister Nicola Sturgeon was arrested. George Soros is retiring. We'll tell you about his successor and son, Alexander Soros. And did you know that curly hair had a role to play in the evolution of the human race? We'll tell you all about it. The headlines first. America is set to rejoin UNESCO. The US will try to return to the UN body next month. It fears that China is filling the gap left behind by them. The US is a founding member of UNESCO. 6 years ago, the Trump administration quit the body, accusing it of having an anti-Israel bias. Israel's former prime minister testifies at Netanyahu's corruption trial. Yair Lapid claims that the Israeli prime minister had tried to get him to back legislation that would benefit a Hollywood mughal. Lapid testified in Jerusalem in one of the 3 corruption cases against Netanyahu. Vaccine maker BioNTech faces its first legal claim in its home country of Germany. The lawsuit is over adverse effects allegedly suffered by some users of its COVID jabs. The vaccines, which were developed at breakneck speed, are facing legal hurdles in France and the UK as well. A pre-trial hearing for the man accused of killing Shinzo Abe cancelled over a suspicious object. It was later found to not be dangerous. Yamagami is facing trial for assassinating Japan's former prime minister in July last year. The 42-year-old man could face the death penalty if convicted. And former Italian Prime Minister Silvio Berlusconi dies at the age of 86. The scandal-ridden media mogul was admitted to a Milan hospital on Friday. He was undergoing tests related to leukemia. Several years ago, the US and Saudi Arabia made a pact, a fairly straightforward deal, oil for security. The US got Saudi oil. In exchange, it gave Saudi Arabia security guarantees. That was the deal. This arrangement has lasted for over 7 decades, but now it is under strain. The US and Saudi Arabia are at odds, and it is advantaged China. Tonight, we'll tell you how. Riyadh is hosting a major summit. It is called the Arab-China Conference. On day 1, they signed 30 agreements. We're talking about deals worth $10 billion, but that's not even the biggest headline. I'll tell you what is. A statement from Saudi Arabia's energy minister, Prince Abdul Aziz bin Salman. He's an older brother of MBS. He was asked about Riyadh's deepening ties with Beijing and the growing suspicions in the West over it. Do you know what the Saudi minister said? Let me quote from his response. I actually ignore it because as a business person, now you'll go where opportunity comes your way. We don't have to be facing any choice which has to do with saying either with us or with the others. So the Saudis say they just ignore Western suspicions, and that's not all. They want to do more business with China. Listen to this.
When it comes to oil, oil demand in China is still growing. So of course we have to capture some of that demand. So as chemical, we want to invest in China because we also have an ambitious program on crude to chemicals.
So the message is quite clear. Deeper ties with China are on the horizon, and the US will just have to deal with it. Needless to say, Washington is not thrilled. Just last week, Antony Blinken was in Riyadh. He's America's top diplomat, their foreign minister. He met with Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman. He also spoke with senior Saudi officials. And his message was this: the US is not leaving the region anytime soon, and Riyadh can count on Washington.
The United States is in this region to stay, and we're a deeply invested in partnering with all of you to build the brightest and strongest possible future of the Middle East. And indeed, with GCC at the core of our vision for the Middle East that is more stable, more secure, more prosperous, more integrated.
The reassurance hasn't moved the needle, though. Riyadh is still keen on engaging with China, and there's a reason for that. There's a trust deficit between the US and Saudi Arabia. Their differences are out in the open. You may remember this from last year, in fact. US President Joe Biden went to Saudi Arabia. He did not even shake hands with the Crown Prince. They fist bumped each other. The encounter was awkward, to say the least. Remember, Biden had pledged to turn Saudi Arabia into a pariah state. And here he was, trying to woo the same kingdom. MBS did not take kindly to that. Behind the scenes, he's said to have been tough with American officials. Reports say months before Blinken visited Riyadh, MBS had adopted a very harsh tone with Washington. Privately, he threatened to, quote-unquote, fundamentally alter ties with the US. What does that even mean, fundamentally altering ties? Reports say the Crown Prince suggested that he, and I'm quoting again, that he will not deal with the US administration anymore. He also promised, quote-unquote, major economic consequences for Washington. When did this happen? In October last year. Apparently, when Biden too was making threats, he had vowed to impose consequences on Saudi Arabia. What for? For cutting back the supply of oil in international markets. As it turned out, Biden did nothing of the sort, and MBS has prevailed. But it further weakened the relationship. Saudi officials have a long list of complaints. They think the US has become unreliable. They point at America's recent failures, like the hasty withdrawal from Afghanistan or the decision to withdraw support from Hosni Mubarak in Egypt. This was more than a decade back. It led to his downfall in 2011. Hosni Mubarak used to lead Egypt. The Saudis believe that in both these instances, America failed in its role as the net security provider in the region. Plus, they're upset over Iran. The Saudis are of the view that Washington has done little to contain Tehran. Hence the unease. It got worse with the Biden presidency. Enter China with money and with no lectures on human rights. The Saudis began exploring. The Chinese have excellent ties with Iran too. In March this year, they brokered a deal between Iran and Saudi Arabia. The two countries restored diplomatic ties. Last week, Iran reopened its embassy in Riyadh, and it happened at the same time when Blinken was in town. The message would not have been lost on the Americans. They failed to revive the nuclear deal with Iran, and now they're losing their grip on Saudi Arabia too. Washington is trying a different approach now. Instead of being combative, it is looking for dialogue. But Riyadh is not warming up to that. As of today, China has the upper hand. The US may have lost one old ally in Saudi Arabia, but is it on the verge of losing another one too? I'm talking about Pakistan. Today, Islamabad received its first cargo of discounted Russian oil. Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif called it a transformative day, the dawn of a new relationship between Russia and Pakistan. He sounds thrilled, to be honest. And why won't he? Who doesn't like cheap oil? You see, Pakistan's economy is on the verge of collapse. Energy payments make up for most of its external payments. So cheaper crude is in Pakistan's interest. But guess who won't be too stoked about it? The United States. Imagine this, your longtime ally signing a deal with your enemy. But that's geopolitics for you. Historical ties hardly matter when your economy is crumbling. The question is, but how did Pakistan get here? Murmurs of a deal with Russia began last year. Finance Minister Ishaq Dar was the first to mention it. He said Pakistan was considering buying Russian oil. Ironically, he cited India's example. Dar said New Delhi was buying Russian oil for cheap, so Islamabad had the right to explore this avenue too. Soon, Pakistan's petroleum minister flew to Moscow. His name is Musaddiq Malik. On his return, he had an important announcement to make. He said Russia would provide Pakistan with discounted crude. The prospect made them happy, but it was short-lived. That same month, Foreign Minister Bilawal Bhutto Zardari visited Washington, and there he shot down any plans of purchasing Russian oil. That was December 2022. 1 month later, things changed again. A Russian delegation arrived in Islamabad. They were there to finalize the oil deal. By April, Pakistan had already placed its first order. Fast forward to today, and the first cargo of Russian oil has reached Islamabad. So were Bhutto's statements just hogwash? Or did he not want to anger Washington while on its soil? Either way, the developments pose a problem for America. You see, Pakistan and Russia have a troubled history, and most of that is thanks to the US. In 1950, Moscow invited Pakistan's first prime minister for a visit. Islamabad declined. Instead, it accepted Washington's invite. That snub did not go down too well with Moscow. Then came the Cold War. Pakistan was Washington's crucial ally during that period. It even provided its air bases to the United States. Again in 1980, the US backed Afghan insurgencies against the Soviet invasion. Pakistan was at the forefront of that. Long story short, there's a lot of bad blood between Moscow and Islamabad. Then what explains the oil deal? Well, economics and politics. Russia wants to sell oil, Pakistan wants to buy cheap oil. As for the politics, Pakistan's ties with the US are deteriorating. The Biden administration was cold to Imran Khan. Then he visited Russia, right on the eve of the Ukraine war. Terrible timing, you would think, but for Imran Khan, this was the perfect opportunity. He was trying to forge ties with Moscow. Well, as things turned out, he was ousted from office. Since then, the generals in Pakistan have tried some damage control with the US. Meanwhile, the Russians are seeking out allies and buyers of oil. Anyone they can find, even Pakistan. They want economic ties, not defense cooperation yet. Russia says a weak Pakistan will not be good for the region, neither for India nor for Afghanistan. Also, this deal gives them a new market to sell their oil. For Pakistan, it's like getting the best of both worlds, cheap Russian oil on one hand and Western military support on the other. Because remember, despite all of this, Washington is still giving them military support, including the most recent upgrade of F-16s worth $450 million. So the question is, how is America allowing all of this? Pakistan remains their major non-NATO ally, amongst the biggest recipients of their military aid. Have the Americans lost sway over the generals like the Arab sheikhs? Or are there sanctimonious lectures only for countries like India? Meanwhile, another Russian partner is in the headlines. I'm talking about North Korea. Their supreme leader Kim Jong-un has issued a statement of support for Russia and President Vladimir Putin. North Korean state media published the message earlier today. Let me quote from what it says. "Justice is sure to win, and the Russian people will continue to add glory to the history of victory." Kim went on to say that he would be, and I'm quoting, he would be holding hands firmly with the Russian president in conformity with the common desire of the peoples of the two countries to fulfill the grand goal of building a powerful country. Yes, Kim Jong-un spoke about holding hands with Putin. The message came today on the occasion of Russia's National Day. June 12, 1990, is when Russia adopted a new constitution. This was after the fall of the Soviet Union. And June 12 is now a public holiday in Russia, which explains the timing of Kim's heartfelt message to Putin. But this isn't the first time that Kim has publicly shown support for Putin. He's been firmly in Putin's camp since Russia invaded Ukraine last year. He has continuously blamed the West. He accuses them of forcing Russia's hand. When the war began last February, this is what North Korea said, and I'm quoting again, "The root cause of the Ukraine crisis totally lies in the hegemonic policy of the US and the West, which enforce themselves in high-handedness and abuse of power against other countries." So Kim's latest tribute to Putin is a continuation of the same stand. This time, though, he did not mention the war. He praised what he called Putin's correct decision and guidance against hostile forces. Now, you may wonder, why such a show of support? Other Russian allies like China have maintained neutrality, or at least pretended to, even offered a peace plan that seems to have sunk without a trace. But North Korea is not talking peace. It is only professing its support for Russia. And this is a relationship that goes back many decades. In fact, it would be fair to say that the Soviet Union helped give birth to North Korea and the Kim dynasty. Here's a quick primer. Before the Koreas were divided, it was one nation under Japanese occupation. This was during the Second World War. It was Japanese-held Korea. Soviet troops entered from the north to liberate Korea. The Americans came in from the other side to resist. They did not want a communist regime to take over Korea. So the Americans and the Soviets fought a proxy war here. They created two occupation zones in Korea, a Soviet zone and an American zone. They divided Korea along the 38th parallel. What is the 38th parallel? The line that is still the border between the two Koreas. There were plans for reunification, but Moscow and Washington did not trust each other, so each installed their own governor in Korea. Do you know who is North Korea's governor? Kim Il-sung, the grandfather of the current leader Kim Jong-un. So the relationship is old, and both sides have maintained it. Moscow and Pyongyang. They've maintained the relationship. Russia regularly shields North Korea at the United Nations. It has resisted Western sanctions against Pyongyang, and the North does face a lot of sanctions, mostly over their nuclear and ballistic missile programs. Moscow also has trade and humanitarian